Welcome to NTD News. I'm Stephanie Cox. President Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un met for a third time, this time in the demilitarized zone between North and South Korea. NTD's Kitty Wang spoke with experts to learn why this meeting is so significant.
President Trump last Sunday crossed the border line to become the first incumbent U.S. president to step foot on the North Korean peninsula.
It was fairly significant in that it broke through a deadlock that we've had since Hanoi in February. This has opened a new opportunity to continue moving down the road towards peace. It doesn't guarantee anything, but it does make it possible. Before this trip, it was kind of dead.
In fact, since last year, Trump and Kim Jong-un have exchanged 12 letters. This time in Panmunjom, the two leaders were expected to have just a few moments of conversation, but it turned into a private meeting lasting 50 minutes. After the meeting, the two sides agreed to designate their respective teams to restart the nuclear negotiations.
I suspect there probably was some backdoor negotiations going on and some discussions of it. I doubt that both of those leaders would be able to react in such short notice, but it's really not important. What's important is that they had the meeting and that we're back on the track to have negotiations.
Trump said that in the next 2 to 3 weeks, the U.S. and North Korean teams will meet and discuss some details. He hopes that both sides can reach a comprehensive nuclear agreement, but that speed is not the object. He also said the sanctions remain on North Korea. However, he did not rule out the possibility of scaling them back as part of upcoming renewed negotiations.
From United States perspective, it's really difficult for the U.S. to lift sanctions when North Korea has not really done anything right now in terms of concrete steps toward denuclearization. Really, North Korea has to offer something beyond Yongbyon facility, and then possibly, I think the United States will do some relaxation of sanctions. Not as much as the North Koreans are asking for, but some relaxation of sanctions.
On President Trump's recent visit to South Korea, locals held a rally to show their support. Our NTD reporter was on location to find out what motivated them to be there.
South Koreans expressed their thoughts about President Donald Trump and how they felt about him visiting the country. Every historical event has a small beginning, so this is very meaningful. I would like the United States to support South Korea more actively and reinforce the brotherhoods. Yes, I love Trump so much, too.
God bless America. God bless Korea.
The Republic of Korea's people keep the memory fresh in their minds of the United States helping to protect their freedom in the Korean War. American power helped the South Korean economy a lot, so I think the South Korean people should feel fidelity and thankfulness. 70 to 80% of South Korean people don't forget our alliance with the United States and our gratitude. South Korea feels gratitude for the U.S. We can't forget that 40,000 American soldiers died and 150,000 soldiers were buried. Citizens say they were surprised to hear that President Trump entered North Korea at the demilitarized zone. It's my first time to see a U.S. president walking around with Kim Jong-un there. I was very shocked and even almost burst into tears. I was really surprised. I can't believe that these two, who it seemed would never meet again, have met. I think the United States president has a political purpose and is going to use it. Looking ahead, the South Koreans present say they are hoping for a peaceful reconciliation. Jeremy Sandberg, NTD News.
Weeks of anti-government protests continue today in Hong Kong. For several weeks, protesters have been rallying against an extradition bill. That bill was designed to allow Hong Kong police to arrest criminal suspects and send them to mainland China for trial. NTD's Matt Gnezda is there with more.
July 1st in Hong Kong, a day the Hong Kong government celebrates its relationship as a special administrative region of China. But today, that celebration is more like a massive anti-government protest. That's because the People's Republic has broken its promise not to interfere with Hong Kong's system of government. several 100,000 protesters marched in the streets here today. Their biggest concern? A China extradition bill. It says that in certain criminal cases, suspects could be sent from Hong Kong to mainland China for trial. And China's court system does not have the same standards to protect people's rights. These people, for example, would be sent to prison for holding this banner in mainland China. The business community also fears the extradition bill. It could allow business people to be arrested for certain dealings they had in China. So protesters have been calling on the Hong Kong government to withdraw the bill. After a public uproar last month, Hong Kong Chief Executive Carrie Lam said she would not move the bill forward, but she stopped short of officially withdrawing it. For many Hong Kongers, that's not enough. Some are also demanding Carrie Lam step down. Protesters are also angry that on June 12th, Hong Kong police used tear gas and rubber bullets on civilians, and they're calling for an independent investigation, which the Hong Kong government has so far refused. There's a general undercurrent of anger here in Hong Kong at what locals see as their government moving closer and closer to the Chinese Communist Party, while refusing to give them meaningful participation in their own political affairs. And that's why recent protests have been so big. Not just today. Back on June 9th, 1 million people protested. And on June 16th, more than 2 million on these same streets. The main protest itself appeared entirely peaceful. But a smaller group had assembled around Hong Kong's Legislative Council offices. They used metal bars and other tools to break into the building. And they tried to block my camera with their hands and with umbrellas. Eventually, more than 100 of them entered the building. They graffitied the walls with anti-Chinese government messages and briefly occupied the Parliament chamber. Shortly after midnight local time, riot police fired tear gas and cleared protesters out. Some of these protesters may eventually face legal consequences, and it casts a shadow on a protest movement that has otherwise been almost entirely peaceful. This is Matt Gnezda reporting for NTD News from Hong Kong.
As clashes between Hong Kong police and protesters take the headlines, Hong Kongers say they will continue their peaceful appeal to the government.
The July 1st protest in Hong Kong ends with police firing tear gas and charging at protesters in the street after some demonstrators entered the Legislative Council. The daytime march, however, remained largely peaceful. According to the organizers, over 550,000 people joined the parade. Some say the peaceful appeal is the true spirit of Hong Kong.
和平、理性、非暴力，没有店家被烧，没有任何的公共设施被破坏。我觉得这一点才是整个我们香港人的福气。也是因为这样子，我们对抗中共一定会继续下去，直到它解体为止。
Others say the power disparity between the government and protesters is clear. And for Hong Kong residents, there is nothing else to hold on to but their belief in freedom and democracy.
也许他们是可以，推行很多我们不想他推行的法案或者是议案，但是我们最终是没有最终我们的信念是没有办法被他的橡胶子弹或者是催泪弹给打死的。 所以我想信念是唯一我们有的一个东西，而我们需要把这样的信念坚持下去，这个可能才是，我们目前所能够怀有盼望的那个基础吧。
The Hong Kong government has responded with strong words to the group of protesters who broke into the legislature building, saying that they jeopardized the safety of police officers and the public. And the government may have already started to take actions against the protesters. According to the report by British newspaper The Guardian, police stopped a public bus following the demonstration outside the Legislative Council building, reportedly searching for protesters. The report said they stopped the bus and checked all the passengers. Police scrutinized their IDs, ordered passengers to remove their masks. Penny Zhou, NTD News.
Markets responding well to the weekend's news that the United States and China will restart trade talks after nearly a year of tensions.
Global stocks rallied on Monday after President Trump announced the U.S. will not impose new tariffs on Chinese exports. This was the outcome of a meeting over the weekend between Trump and China's Xi Jinping at the G20 summit in Japan.
We agreed that I would not be putting tariffs on the $325 billion that I would have the ability to put on if I wanted.
Trump said the meeting with Xi went better than expected.
We discussed a lot of things and we're right back on track.
Trump said although he won't be adding new tariffs to Chinese exports, he would not lift existing ones either. In another outcome of the meeting, President Trump lifted the ban on U.S. companies selling to Chinese tech giant Huawei.
We send and we sell to Huawei a tremendous amount of product that goes into the various things that they make, and I said that that's okay, that we will keep selling that product.
Talks between the two countries collapsed in May after Beijing backtracked on reform pledges, leading to escalating tariffs on both sides.
China and the United States both benefit from cooperation and lose in a confrontation. Cooperation and dialogue are better than friction and confrontation.
No timeline has yet been given on what will likely be a complex deal. Cindy Drucker, NTD News.
President Trump is a native New Yorker, but his relationship with his home state hasn't been a harmonious one since he took office. NTD's Holly Kellum has the latest on their case.
President Trump on Monday calling New York's Attorney General a bludgeoning tool for New York Governor Andrew Cuomo. They sue on everything, always in search of a crime, he wrote on Twitter. He accused the governor of going after his businesses and foundation, costing him and his children a fortune on lawyers. Last year, Trump dissolved his foundation after Attorney General Barbara Underwood alleged it coordinated with his campaign, among other illicit acts. In March, current Attorney General Letitia James opened a lawsuit for $2.8 million over the foundation's alleged misconduct. That same month, her office reportedly subpoenaed two banks for financial records related to Trump and his foundation. Before that, James campaigned on opening sweeping investigations into the president, his family, and anyone in his inner circle. New York State has also joined cases challenging Trump's policy on DACA recipients, also known as Dreamers, and putting a citizenship question on the 2020 census. Cuomo responded to Trump's tweets today, telling reporters in a conference call that the New York Attorney General is separately elected and thus he doesn't have an Attorney General. James responded on Twitter, saying her office will, quote, follow the facts in any case, wherever they lead. Holly Kellum, NTD News.
Police in Denver say a man who fired at least a couple of shots along a busy street during the morning commute is dead after he was shot by police. Police say officers responded quickly after getting calls from witnesses Monday morning. They said the man was armed with a handgun. Police ask that anyone who witnessed what happened or has video footage to come forward. Iran has breached the terms of a multinational nuclear deal by exceeding the cap put on its uranium stockpile, as tensions continue to escalate in the region.
Iran's foreign minister today said the Islamic State has more than 300 kilograms of enriched low-grade uranium. That's the cap Iran agreed to under the 2015 nuclear deal in exchange for an easing of international sanctions. The United Nations Secretary General today issued a statement urging Iran to continue implementing its commitments under the nuclear deal.
If verified, such action by the Islamic Republic of Iran would not help preserve the plan nor secure the tangible economic benefits for the Iranian people.
During talks in Vienna on Friday, the remaining signatories to the accord, Britain, China, France, Germany, and Russia, made a last-ditch effort to persuade Iran to back off from plans to breach the limit.
حالا تا الان نه تنها اروپایی‌ها اصل تعهداتشون انجام ندادن بلکه حتی مقدمه اجرای تعهداتشون بعد از حدود 14 ماه تازه داره.
Iran's foreign minister said the next step will be enriching uranium beyond the allowed level of 3.67%. President Trump withdrew from the agreement last year and reimposed tough sanctions on the regime. Trump called the deal flawed, in part because under it, the timeline for Iran's ability to create a nuclear weapon would be roughly 1 year.
We cannot allow the world's leading sponsor of terrorism to possess the planet's most dangerous weapons.
Washington increased sanctions in May, and Iran responded with threats to disrupt oil shipments in the Strait of Hormuz. 6 oil tankers have since been attacked in the region. A week ago, the United States came within minutes of launching an attack on Iran after the regime downed a U.S. drone in international airspace.
People were very happy with what I did the other day by not doing something, okay? But we had tremendous, and we have tremendous support Nobody wants to see Iran have nuclear weapons.
Iran claims its nuclear program is solely for peaceful purposes, including power generation. Trump has called for negotiations with Iran with no preconditions, but Tehran has ruled out talks until the United States returns to the nuclear pact and drops its sanctions. Cindy Drucker, NTD News.
The life of a trucker can be a constant race against the clock, not only to reach the destination, but to beat the regulation. NTD's Miguel Moreno has the story of a trucker that says the industry needs more flexibility.
Terry Budden has been trucking for 43 years, and while the open road is free, Budden does not have the freedom to stop when he wants. Truck drivers in the United States are allotted 11 hours of time to drive within a 14-hour on-duty window, and once the big rig is fired up, the clock is ticking. Budden said this compels employers to push truckers to the limit.
When some big box carrier is calling up, why are you stopping? The guy has to say, well, I'm going to the bathroom, or I want to get something to eat. And they're saying to him, keep that truck moving. Use every minute you can.
And if you go over the time, there is a fine, such as a charge per mile or a complete prohibition from the ignition for a day.
If you run out of time in the middle of the George Washington Bridge, are you going to just pull over and park?
These regulations have been enforced by the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration since the 1930s. But under the Trump administration, the hourly limit could be lifted with a proposal to deregulate. Kathy Chase, the president of Advocates for Highway and Auto Safety, believes the proposal could remove a trucker's required 30-minute lunch break or increase health risks.
It's an ebbing away at the current regulations when, in fact, 5,000 people are being killed every year in truck crashes and 150,000 more are being injured in truck crashes.
According to an agency of the Transportation Department, 60 of those 5,000 accidents in 2017 were identified as asleep or fatigued. However, Budden explained that drivers are already fatigued under the current regulation. The proposal is under review by the White House's Office of Management and Budget. Miguel Moreno, NTD News.
Hundreds gathered in the city of Omdurman in Sudan today to protest against the ruling military. At least 7 people have died in clashes between security services and protesters just yesterday.
As riot police looked on, 600 people barricaded the main road leading to White Nile Bridge, which connects Omdurman to Sudan's capital. Crowd members said they joined after the bodies of 3 young men dressed in civilian clothes were found that morning, riddled with bullets. Dozens tearfully chanted, "Down with military rule," and "Blood for blood, we will not accept blood money near the bodies," covered in flags. Sudanese American communities are also coming out across the United States to spread the word about the ongoing human rights violations. One such group held a peaceful protest in Orlando, Florida yesterday.
There have been murders, there have been rapes, there have been unconstitutional atrocities that have happened, but it is not in the media, it is not being seen in the world, and so the government has also censored the country by turning off the internet, so they are not able to voice their opinions or what is happening.
Meanwhile, hundreds of thousands took to the streets across Sudan yesterday, demanding the military hand over power to civilians.
At this year's grueling Olympus Marathon, top trail runners from around the world scaled the famous Greek mythical mountain of gods, Olympus.
Athletes competing in the 16th Olympus Marathon faced an arduous 27 miles, following in the footsteps of an ancient holy trail that pays homage to the mythical Greek god Zeus. Contestants of the Olympus Ultra Marathon pushed harder, starting in the early hours and running 44 miles. Jo Meek, the winner of the women's race, completed the course in 12 hours, 4 minutes, and 24 seconds.
My strengths are running, and this was a lot of uphill hiking and really steep vertical descents, so it pushed me more than most races do.
635 athletes competed across the 3 races, one of which included scaling Greece's tallest mountain. This is the 3rd year in a row that the Olympus Marathon has been included in the Skyrunner World Series, one of the world's oldest and most prestigious international trail races. The next race in the series, the Buff Epic Trail 42K, will take place in Spain on July 14th.
Traditional Chinese martial arts. It's demanding physically and mentally, and training often includes lessons in morality. However, much of its deeper meaning was suppressed in China's Cultural Revolution. NTD's International Chinese Traditional Martial Arts Competition, however, is making strides to revive this art.
Traditional Chinese martial arts go back more than 4,000 years with hundreds of styles. Mastering these skills and understanding the principles takes more than meets the eye. Practicing martial arts is like practicing a spiritual discipline. You need diligence, discipline, stillness, and self-control. Influenced by Buddhism, Taoism, and Confucianism, martial arts developed deeper moral and spiritual values within the world of combat. Competitive martial arts are trending more and more, whereas traditional martial arts are declining. But we hope that through NTD's efforts, the traditional martial arts won't disappear. NTD's martial arts competition aims to keep this tradition alive. Reviving traditional culture is one of the principles of NTD. And traditional martial arts is also a part of traditional Chinese culture and moral code. The Asia-Pacific preliminaries successfully concluded in Taiwan on June 8th. Nearly 180 contestants participated in 272 games. Senior martial arts directors and curators took part, both young and old, local and international.
I'm happy I'm here because it's great to see so many people from all different kind of disciplines, and I think it's a good thing to participate.
They're hoping to show the world the essence of traditional martial arts and its various styles, and to return this ancient practice back to its people for good.
And that's all for NTD News. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Stephanie Cox.